Welcome to Propeller Breeze, the show for student pilots, sim fans, and everyone chasing that first solo and beyond. All information in this podcast is for entertainment and general knowledge only. Always verify with certified flight instructors or regulatory authorities before attempting anything mentioned here.
So picture this. You are climbing through, I don't know, maybe 1,500 feet.
Okay, I'm with you.
The sky is perfectly clear. The engine is just, purring along. And then suddenly, bam.
Oh, man.
Yeah. The cabin door pops wide open.
Yeah.
The wind is roaring through the cockpit. Your charts are blowing literally everywhere. And your heart rate instantly spikes to, 140 beats per minute.
Yeah, that is pure panic right there.
Exactly. But in that exact fraction of a second, do you know what your brain is actually doing?
Well, it is rapidly shuffling through millions of neural pathways. It's basically trying to decide whether to freeze, panic, or, actually fly the airplane.
Right.
And if you don't understand the mechanics of that split-second cognitive process, well, all the stick and rudder stools in the world just won't save you.
So true. And if you are listening to this right now, chances are you are a student pilot. You're grinding through your private pilot license, your PPL.
Yep, the fun stuff.
Right. You're learning crosswind landings, steep turns, stall recoveries. But today, we are doing a deep dive into an authoritative framework on decision-making in a dynamic environment.
Which is such a crucial topic.
It really is. Our mission for this deep dive is to move way beyond the physical mechanics of flying. We are diving into the psychology of the cockpit.
We really want to understand how a pilot's brain processes information, how it avoids those deadly behavioral traps, and, manages absolute chaos when things go wrong.
Okay, let's unpack this because, learning to maneuver an aircraft is exhilarating, but the most critical, most complex, and honestly most dangerous instrument in that plane isn't on the dashboard.
No, it's definitely not.
It is your own mind.
Absolutely. And, aviation psychologists generally divide how that mind operates in the cockpit into two distinct categories.
Okay, what's the first one?
So the first is analytical decision-making. This is the highly structured, methodical approach that your certified flight instructor is probably drilling into your head right now.
The step-by-step stuff.
Exactly. It is a conscious process of gathering information, reviewing it, rating your options, and then finally selecting a course of action.
Oh, these are the acronyms every student pilot dreams about, right?
Yeah, totally.
Like the 5 Ps, the 3P model, the decide model. And it's actually worth pausing on one of those, decide, which stands for detect, estimate, choose, identify, do, and evaluate.
Right, and it's so much more than just a memory trick.
Yeah, because it actually forces your brain out of a biological panic state. Like when that door pops open, your amygdala wants you to just freak out.
Wants to go into full fight or flight.
Exactly. But by demanding you go step by step to first detect the problem, then estimate its severity, you are physically forcing your brain's prefrontal cortex to take the steering wheel back from your raw emotions.
And that structural override is essential. You have to evaluate options logically. But the research also points out a critical limitation here.
Which is what? Time.
Yes, exactly. Analytical decision-making requires time. If your engine sputters at 200 feet on takeoff, you cannot pull out a legal pad and run a pros and cons list.
You literally do not have the altitude.
Right. You don't have the altitude and you don't have the time.
Which brings us to the second category, right? Automatic or naturalistic decision-making.
Yes, naturalistic.
And this is where we look at how experts operate in highly fluid, really high-stress environments. We're talking about quarterbacks calling an audible at the line of scrimmage.
Or grandmaster chess players playing speed chess.
Right, or veteran firefighters entering a burning building.
Yeah.
When pressed for time and loaded with uncertainty, they do not sit there and weigh the pros and cons.
No, they don't. And what's fascinating here is that they bypass the analytical model entirely.
Oh, wow. They just skip it.
Completely. Instead of comparing a bunch of different approaches, they just assess the situation to see if it strikes them as familiar. They recognize patterns.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, they grab the very first workable option they find and launch into an experience-based action. And then as the situation unfolds, they creatively revise their plan on the fly.
That makes me think of cooking.
Cooking? Okay, how so?
Well, analytical decision-making is like a beginner rigidly following a recipe, right?
Yeah.
Like a quarter teaspoon of salt, exactly 1 cup of broth.
Oh, yeah, measuring everything perfectly.
Exactly. But automatic decision-making, that's like a master chef cooking on the fly. They taste the sauce, realize it needs some brightness, and just squeeze a lemon over the pot without measuring anything.
That is a great analogy.
Yeah.
Because the chef isn't guessing, right? They are relying on a deeply internalized, just massive database of flavor profiles and chemical reactions.
Right, they know how the acid interacts with the fat because they've seen it like 1,000 times.
Exactly.
But wait, are you seriously suggesting a student pilot with maybe 15 hours in their logbook should just cook on the fly?
Oh, no. No, definitely not.
Because if a student gets into a tight spot and just goes with their gut without running an analytical checklist, I mean, that sounds like a recipe for a fatal crash.
It absolutely is a recipe for a crash, which is exactly why understanding the mechanism behind naturalistic decision-making is so vital.
Okay, explain that a bit more.
Well, this reflexive type of choice is anchored entirely in training and experience. A student pilot cannot rely on automatic decision-making because, well, their database is essentially empty.
Right, they don't have the hours yet.
Precisely. You have to follow the rigid, analytical recipe exactly dozens of times, strictly adhering to models like DECIDE.
Ah, so you're building the foundation.
Yes. By consciously forcing yourself through those analytical steps over and over, you are actually writing the code for your future automatic responses.
That is so cool. So as you build hours, you start recognizing patterns faster.
Exactly. And eventually you blend the two tools. You use automatic reactions for those immediate threats and analytical tools for the complex, slow-moving problems.
But here is the paradox we found in the source material. You would think that building all that experience and upgrading your internal database makes you bulletproof.
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you'd think the veteran pilot is always safer than the student. But it turns out that experience makes you vulnerable to a completely different kind of danger.
Yep. Operational pitfalls.
Operational pitfalls, right?
These are basically behavioral traps. And they're incredibly insidious because they mask themselves as competence.
Wow, that's dangerous.
It really is. As pilots gain experience, they naturally develop a stronger confidence in their ability to complete a flight exactly as planned.
Like they really want to stick to the schedule.
Exactly. They want to get home or they want to please their passengers. And this subtle shift, it corrupts their judgment, leading them to overestimate their skills and, honestly, underestimate the environment.
So what does this all mean? Let's dissect a couple of these traps, starting with get-there-itis.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah. And this isn't just like casually wanting to go home. It is a dangerous tunnel vision fixation on the original destination, combined with a total psychological block against diverting.
Which is terrifying.
It is. But why does a pilot with 1,000 hours push through a thunderstorm instead of just landing at a perfectly good alternate airport 20 miles away?
It really comes down to the normalization of deviance.
Okay, what does that mean?
Well, it is very rarely a conscious choice to just break a safety rule. It operates on a dopamine loop.
A dopamine loop.
Yeah, think about it. On a previous flight, maybe the pilot pushed the weather margins just a tiny bit to get home on time, and they made it.
Okay, I see where this is going.
Right, so the brain tags that rule breaking as a successful strategy. It rewarded them with time saved and, the comfort of their own bed.
So the baseline for risk actually shifts.
Exactly. The next time they push a little further, the brain starts viewing minimum safety altitudes and fuel reserves not as hard walls, but as flexible suggestions.
Which sets the stage for terrifying behaviors like scud running or the duck under syndrome.
Yeah, those are classic traps.
For those who don't know, duck under is when a pilot shoots an instrument approach and intentionally drops below the minimum safe altitude because they convince themselves they just need to get 50 feet lower to see the runway.
Right. They are just desperately avoiding a go-around.
And then scud running, that's trying to maintain visual contact with the ground in deteriorating weather, right?
Yes, flying lower and lower to stay under the cloud deck.
It's like driving on a highway in heavy fog, and instead of slowing down, you just lean closer to the windshield.
That's a really good way to put it. Except, leaning closer to the windshield in a car doesn't mess with your inner ear.
Oh, true.
In an airplane, when you are scud running, you are moving 100 miles an hour in three-dimensional space. The moment you fly into that cloud and lose visual reference with the horizon...
Your vestibular system just freaks out.
Worse. Your vestibular system, the fluid in your inner ear, it actually starts lying to you.
Because your eyes can't verify what your body is feeling.
Precisely. The fluid in your ear stabilizes. A gradual 10-degree bank starts to feel completely level.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Your brain thinks you are flying straight, but your instruments say you are turning.
That is wild.
So when pilots willfully ignore the rules and push visual flight rules into instrument meteorological conditions, VFR into IMC, they are pitting their human biology against physics.
And physics always wins.
Always. The spatial disorientation takes over. They try to correct based on what their ear tells them, and they inadvertently steer the aircraft into a graveyard spiral.
Man, it's terrifying to think that it isn't a lack of flying skill that kills in those situations. It's a compromised psychological state.
It absolutely is.
And the primary catalyst that pushes a pilot from a rational mindset into one of these behavioral traps, well, it's stress.
Yes. Stress is the ultimate cognitive pressure cooker.
So we really have to look at how stress degrades the cognitive machinery we've been talking about.
Right. But the framework offers a really nuanced view here, actually. Stress isn't inherently evil.
It's not.
No, a baseline level of stress is a survival requirement. It keeps you alert, it heightens your sensory processing, and it prevents complacency.
Okay, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, if you look at human performance on a curve, your effectiveness actually climbs as stress increases, peaking right in the optimal zone of alertness.
But once you cross the apex of that curve, your performance just falls off a cliff, right? The processing power just evaporates.
Exactly, and that rapid deterioration happens because the effects of stress are cumulative. You can kind of think of your capacity to handle stress like a bucket.
Okay, a bucket.
The source material breaks stressors down into 3 categories that constantly drip into this bucket. You have environmental stress, so the noise of the engine, the vibration of the airframe, temperature extremes.
Right.
Then physiological stress. Maybe you didn't sleep well, you're fatigued, or your blood sugar is low because you skipped lunch.
I always get stressed when I skip lunch.
Don't we all? And finally, psychological stress. This is the mental workload of navigating maybe a tense relationship at home or worrying about an upcoming check ride.
Wow. So when you step onto the tarmac, you are carrying your entire life with you.
You really are.
If you are exhausted and worried about your finances, your bucket is already 3/4 full before you even turn the master switch on.
Yep, exactly.
So it is going to take a very minor in-flight emergency to make that bucket just completely overflow.
Well, let's apply that to the scenario we started with. The Mooney climbing through 1,500 feet. The cabin door suddenly pops open. It's incredibly loud. The wind is violent.
Right. And on a clear, sunny day, under visual flight rules, you jump in your seat, your heart pounds, but, you can see the horizon.
You realize the airplane is still flying perfectly fine.
Yeah, the stress spikes, but it wanes relatively quickly. Your brain has the excess capacity to process the anomaly.
Now take that exact same mechanical event, that door popping open, and put the airplane in dense clouds, in IMC. You have 0 visibility outside. You are entirely reliant on scanning your instruments to keep the plane upright.
It's like a computer running too many background applications. You've got the immense cognitive load of flying on instruments, calculating your headings, talking to air traffic control.
And then boom!
Right. This door bursts open. It is a massive pop-up window that demands immediate attention. Suddenly, your mental RAM is maxed out.
And the whole system just freezes up.
Yeah. You stop scanning your instruments, you fixate on the door, and the airplane starts banking without you even noticing.
It happens so fast.
So as a student pilot, when your mental computer freezes up in the air like that, how do you instantly reboot it?
The required action is deceptively simple, but honestly remarkably difficult to execute under adrenaline. It's stop, think, and analyze.
Just stop.
Yes. Unless the aircraft is literally falling out of the sky, there's almost always time to think. You have to force a hard pause, breathe.
And re-engage the prefrontal cortex.
Exactly, by running an analytical model like DECIDE. But more importantly, the researchers advocate for preventative load management.
Preventative, like before you fly.
Yeah, you need to empty your stress bucket before you fly. That means ruthless honesty about your physiological state, proper rest, and arriving at the airport early so you aren't fighting the clock before you even pre-flight.
Because when the workload spikes, you need literally every ounce of brain power.
Every single drop.
But, even the best pilots get overwhelmed. When your own cognitive capacity is maxed out, you can't just tough it out.
No, you really can't.
You have to tap into your toolkit, which brings us to the internal and external resources at your disposal.
So once you become a licensed pilot, you're essentially a flight deck manager. And a good manager leverages every available resource to distribute the workload.
Right.
Internally, one of the most underutilized assets is actually the person sitting in the right seat.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting, because the guidelines highlight that this applies even if your passenger has absolutely Zero flying experience.
That's right.
A non-pilot can smell electrical smoke before you do. They can listen for a strange engine vibration. They can literally look out the window and physically confirm the landing gear is down.
Yes, all incredibly helpful.
Even just acting as a sounding board makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Like, if you verbalize a changing weather forecast to a passenger, explaining what the new altimeter setting means, the act of teaching it forces your own brain to critically re-examine your plan.
It totally does.
But wait, I have to step into the shoes of the student pilot here for a second.
Okay, go for it.
Taking up a friend who has never been in a small Cessna sounds like the complete opposite of a resource. I mean, they're asking a million questions about the headset, they're pointing at their house, they might even be getting airsick. Isn't an untrained passenger just a massive distraction?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture of workload management, managing that passenger is an inherent part of your job as the pilot in command.
Okay.
You dictate the environment. You don't let them sit there passively. You integrate them into the crew.
How do you do that?
Before the engine ever starts, you brief them. You assign them a specific sector of the sky and tell them, their job is to scan for traffic.
Give them a job.
Exactly. You hand them the physical checklist and have them read it to you. By giving them a defined task, you channel their nervous energy and you transform a potential distraction into an active flight deck asset.
Wow, that reframes the whole dynamic. You aren't just flying them, you're leading them.
Exactly.
And speaking of checklists, treating the pilot's operating handbook and your written checklists as non-negotiable internal resources is just critical. Relying on memory is exactly how those behavioral traps start.
Oh, 100%.
But your resources don't end at the cockpit windows. You have a massive external infrastructure waiting to help you.
You do. The most powerful tools outside your aircraft are air traffic control, ATC, and flight service stations, the FSS.
Right.
ATC does far more than just sequence planes for landing. They provide traffic advisories, they offer radar vectors around weather cells, and in an emergency, they essentially become your remote co-pilot.
That's a huge comfort.
It is. If your cognitive bucket is overflowing, you can literally tell ATC you are overwhelmed, ask them for a heading, and offload the navigation task entirely to them.
And flight service stations are right there with them doing heavy lifting, right?
Yeah.
They provide in-depth weather briefings, they track notices to airmen, and they coordinate search and rescue.
In places like Alaska, selected FSSs even provide continuous transcribed weather broadcasts.
See, there are hundreds of professionals on the ground whose entire job is to ensure you land safely, so use them.
The caveat, though, is knowing when to use them.
What do you mean?
Resource management requires prioritization. If you have an engine fire on short final, you do not pull out the microphone to have a chat with the tower.
No, probably not a good time for a chat.
Right. You follow the golden rule of aviation. Aviate, navigate, communicate, in that exact order.
Aviate, navigate, communicate.
Keep the plane flying first, figure out where you are going second, and only talk to the ground when the first two are secure.
Aviate, navigate, communicate. I love that. Let's take a step back and look at the whole picture we've built today.
Sounds good.
We started by mapping the pilot's brain, seeing how the rigid, analytical decision-making you are learning right now builds the foundation for the rapid, naturalistic instincts you will rely on as a veteran.
Right, and we examined how building that experience can quietly lead to operational pitfalls, where the dopamine loop of cutting corners normalizes deviance.
Leading to those deadly traps like get-there-itis and scud running.
Exactly.
Then we watch how stress acts as a cognitive amplifier, filling up your bucket until a single pop-up event crashes your mental computer.
And finally, we unpacked your toolkit, learning how to transform nervous passengers into crew members and how to offload tasks to ATC.
It's a massive amount of psychology to layer on top of just, learning to operate the rudder pedals.
It really is a lot. But before we sign off, there is one final incredibly fascinating piece of behavioral science from the research that I want you to experiment with on your next flight lesson.
Oh, I am all ears. Lay it on us.
So we discussed checklists and single pilot resource management earlier, right?
Yeah.
Well, the research reveals that if you verbalize an action and physically touch the corresponding object.
Like saying it out loud.
Yes. For example, saying landing gear down and locked out loud while physically wrapping your hand around the gear handle, you mathematically enhance the probability that the task was actually accomplished.
Wait, mathematically?
Yes. Think about the neurobiology behind this. When you fly alone, your brain loves to run on autopilot. It assumes you did the checklist because you always do the checklist.
Right, confirmation bias.
Exactly. But by forcing your vocal cords to speak into an empty cockpit and forcing your nerves to register the tactile feel of the plastic handle, you disrupt that automated routine.
Oh, wow.
You literally hack your own brain, forcing it to stay completely present in the current moment.
That is absolutely wild. You are short-circuiting your brain's laziness just by talking to yourself and touching the panel.
Yeah.
It's basically a physical anchor against complacency.
It creates a closed-loop system of accountability between you and the machine.
What a brilliant way to wrap this up. To the student pilot listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a great discussion.
The next time you walk out to the flight line to pre-flight your aircraft, remember that the most complex, most critical system you need to check is your own mindset. Keep studying, fly safe, and take these psychological insights with you into the cockpit.
That's it for this episode. Keep your wings level, your brain sharp, and catch you next time in the pattern. Thanks for riding with Propeller Breeze.